All right, we turn our focus to this now. The ANC's top brass and the National Working Committee has visited the Northwest to address problems in the province. Some regions are still unhappy about alleged irregularities in the nominations of councillors for the 2021 local government elections. Political analyst Sysman Moutlong joins me now to give me some analysis on that situation there. Good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. Although the leadership in the province would like for us to believe that this is normal process that the National Working Committee has been conducting in Limpopo. They went to KwaZulu-Natal. They were supposed to go to Gauteng this week, but they chose to go to the Northwest. Nonetheless, is there a sense that there is a legitimacy challenge for the current PC?
Yeah, so good evening. And I think, yes, to give credit to the party, this is the normal national tour that the National Working Committee is doing to visit provinces and the branches. But what is peculiar here, when you compare to Limpopo or KZN, there hasn't been so much divisions there. The Northwest province is a problem province for the ANC, particularly on the element of factionalism. What we have seen was under Supra Mahumapelo, and he was being presented as that lackey of Jacob Zuma. And it seems as if Supra was the source of factionalism in that province. But what we get to see now is that factionalism is endemic within the political party, the ANC. And this is what they have to really contend with. You're talking about the legitimacy issues. We've understood that there has always been a dispute on the processes, internal processes of electing or nominating people for leadership. And the disgruntled members have been going to court several times. And because of what they have been going to approach the court for, it is basically that element of flouting processes and to support those that are preferred over maybe some people who are outside the dominant faction now. So it is always that long-standing factionalism in the party.
Is it a failure, I suppose, at this particular point for the contestation to be left at conference, where you find the current PEC having to come down on particular councillors who are not towing the party line? For example, they get to voting at a municipality and they give them a name and they decide not to support that name. Is it a fact that it did not end at the provincial conference and it's still going on in terms of the contestation for power and the tussle for power within the province?
Yes, what you have seen on this issue of a party line versus a personal conscience in terms of voting, or one using their wisdom given the circumstances before them, it is similar to what we have seen in the ANC at the National Assembly level, where people like Nkosazana have deviated from a mandate from the party. And there has to be, I think, what the conversation within the party about how they have to address these people who deviate from the party mandate. And in the province, I think some have used that deviation to punish a member, mainly, or to settle scores, inter-party scores. And I think it is wise for the ANC to come hard on those, to instill that discipline that you have been delegated by a political party and you shall do according to a political party mandate. That is controversial, but we have seen Gwede Mantashe are debating around this, that you got into that legislature or that council because of a party ticket, and you cannot suddenly, when you are there, claim to be using your conscience. So I think for discipline and order, this is what the ANC is starting to do, or the PC is trying to do, to eradicate those that deviated. And we think because of that deviation, it was not mainly based on conscience or morality, but it has been an element of factionalism and disobedience.
Looking a little bit more into that situation in the Northwest when we come back from the break. Political analyst Sysman Moutlong staying with us, and we'll wrap this conversation on the other side of this break. Stay with us. We're back with you live tonight, John in Focus, and thanks for staying on. The ANC's top brass as they visit the Northwest West Province amidst some tensions there, particularly around particular councillors that were imposed, but also the legitimacy of the PEC, some of the members wanting that whole entire conference to be declared unlawful, and every decision that was taken there to be invalid. Political analyst Sysman Moutlong still with us. Explain to us what the dynamic between Nono Maloyi and Bushima Ape is playing currently in the province as it relates also to their relationship with the dominant Cyril Ramaphosa faction.
Yeah, I think what you have seen is Bushima Ape was brought in. Will understand as a standing, in my view, more of a standing intervention. We understand that the province was under administration for a period and there has been incompetence in terms of service delivery from the Premier's office itself. And what we come to see is Nono Maloyi coming through as more of a foot soldier, somebody who has a support on the ground. And that brings the issue of the dynamics of two centers of power, basically what we see in the ANC of what we have had previously. And we want to see, basically the picture that is playing out is Nono Maloyi trying to assert himself as an authority, but Bushi is there as more somebody who says, I have Cyril's support, and I'm also legitimate myself. So what we see is that need to cooperate, the need for collaboration between the two leaders. What we saw also was Nono Maloyi coming in to say, my interest is to stabilize branches, is to build the movement on the ground and not necessarily play the big politics. But then that person has to really play around the issues of factions. So this is what I think in my view, what I see, Nono Maloyi is being, asserting himself or appears to be pushed to say, you need to assert yourself more. And Bushi is more of an isolated or becoming more and more isolated, if not a pushback to really reassert himself as well. So those are the two dynamics for me, or two actors whom I think should not see themselves as an opposition or as people who are competing within the political movement, but people who want to build the party and stabilize the province, because across the province we see the incompetence and maladministration at the local government. This is what they should be working around mainly, because they have the common vision of really rooting out corruption and ensuring that the ANC in that province remains alive and relevant. Otherwise, we see the party over time, I think, will be losing power to the opposition, either depending on how the EFF assert itself or the Democratic Alliance. But I think EFF will be on the rise in that province in the coming years.
Yeah, that segues very nice into the question that I wanted to ask you next, because I suppose this entire concern that has led even the National Working Committee of the ANC to do the whole entire tour is the concern around the 2024 elections. How real is a threat around this dissatisfaction and dissatisfied members of a boycott of the ANC come 2024? Particularly when you, for example, look at some of the by-elections that have taken place and how people have responded.
Yeah, I think what we see in the province is something that is puzzling, and I think this is what I think in the week Rebonitau in his analysis spoke about the rural vote, and for me it clarified what has been puzzling as to if the Northwest Province has been underserved so much, what are the electorates saying? And it is mainly that element to say people continue to vote the ANC despite its malpractices or maladministration of the resources there. Yet the issue of a threat by some members of the political party to say we will not support, we will not campaign. That has been spoken previously. It's similar to what the SACP is doing. Every time SACP will say, we think we'll go to vote alone. We think to vote, or rather compete for elections alone. Yet, in the party, there's been those people who, whenever they are disgruntled, they say, we're not sure if we are going to campaign. Yet they change their tune on the eve of elections. You see them running and going door to door to campaign, and what they would say is that their interest is to see the political party winning instead of, despite their misgivings or despite their apprehensions about the people who are leading. So this is more political talk, or rhetoric between the comrades in the movement. I don't think they will really make true of that threat, because once you don't campaign or you discampaign the political party, you are handing power over to the opposition, and that will actually affect them, even though they are disgruntled about their political leadership. So they will be hurting themselves more than anyone if they were to discampaign the party. So I don't think anyone who threatens not to support the ANC, even though they are leaders of the ANC, will make true of that. So it is power plays within the movement.
There is this continuing tendency, I suppose, that you're seeing within the ANC, even though the ANC took a resolution, and even in 2018 it was reiterated that ANC members cannot take the party to court. Members who take the party to court face expulsion. Right? They've even created a structure where there's a dispute resolution committee which members can approach and bring their grievances. But they don't seem to be winning with this particular resolution.
No, that resolution is not working. It was threatening, and I think as we speak, it was right there at the time of Gwedemantashe and under Zuma's leadership. And what he was trying to do, I think, at that moment, it was to intimidate those that are disgruntled. Yet what you see is those who go to the court ultimately arguing that they have been deprived of an opportunity to utilize the internal processes. Because what happens now, a branch will go report an issue, and then the party will say, we will attend to it. And this is all the promise they give them, and it will take years before they resolve that. So these members cannot wait years when they see there's some injustice happening. If you flout your internal processes, this is when they would go to the court. I think if NC is true to that, it should be able to address this kind of complaints. The one we're talking about on PEC, they've raised this issue of a tempered list, and then the political party said, let's wait for the conference, let's wait for elections, we'll go after and investigate. Yet they have not really responded sufficiently to those allegations. This is why those affected within the party are still calling for the disbandment of the PEC, because they see this as not a legitimate structure, people who have been given a mandate from the ground. And NC tried to do this. It was saying, we want to root out factionalism. Let branches, let communities nominate their own representatives. At the same time, the NC is the one that undermines that commitment. So this is the self-sabotage that we see happening in the ANC. So they say something well, meaning, but they don't act on it, because they only speak for the sake of assuaging, minimizing the pressure that emerges within the political party. So we don't see an honest leadership at some point. This is why they have this kind of problems they are facing with.
Sysman Moutlong, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on and your intervention here tonight. Political analyst Sysman Moutlong giving some analysis of the situation on the ground.